Here's a question that should be impossible to ask. And yet, you just did. What was before the Big Bang? Not what's in the universe, not how it began, but what existed before existence itself. Now I want you to try something. Look at your hands. They're made of atoms, each one over 99.99999% empty space, but somehow they feel solid. Now zoom out. You're on a planet hurling through space at 67,000 miles per hour, spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, and yet you feel perfectly still. That's already weird. But here's where it gets stranger. According to standard cosmology, everything, space, time, matter, energy, began 13.8 billion years ago in an event we call the Big Bang. That means before the Big Bang, there was no time, there was no space, there was no before. Wait, what? That's like saying the novel begins on page 1, but there is no cover, no binding, no shelf, just a page 1 floating in a void that doesn't exist. And here's the disturbing part. Every time you ask what came before the Big Bang, you're accidentally smuggling time into a place where time didn't exist. Your brain can't help it. It evolved to survive inside time. You think in time. You dream in time. So the moment you ask what was before, your mind is already wrong. And yet, that doesn't stop us from asking. Because we want to know. Did something cause the universe? Was it part of a cycle? A bounce? A birth from something even deeper? The truth? We don't know. But what we do know is so weird, so profound, so uncomfortable, that by the end of this video, you'll never think of nothing the same way again. Let's dive in. You've probably heard it before, maybe in school or in a documentary with stars swirling in the background. The universe began with the Big Bang. Sounds official, sounds final, sounds like we understand what happened. But here's the thing. We don't. In fact, most people, including some scientists, imagine the Big Bang like this. A giant explosion happening in space. Like a firework going off in a black sky with galaxies flying outward. Logical, right? But that image is dead wrong. The Big Bang didn't happen in space. It created space. It didn't happen at a place. It happened everywhere at once, because space itself was smaller than a proton, and then it expanded. So already you might be thinking, wait, if the Big Bang created space, where did it happen? And if it created time, when did it happen? Exactly. This is your first "that doesn't make sense" moment. And it's not your fault. Our brains evolved to track lions on a savanna, not to comprehend space-time curvature or quantum singularities. But let's try anyway. Here's the common story. Roughly 13.8 billion years ago, the universe was a singularity, a point of infinite density, infinite temperature, and zero volume. Then, boom. Expansion. Space stretched, energy cooled, particles formed, galaxies condensed, life eventually emerged, and that's where we show up. But here's the thing, and it's a big one. That entire picture only works once time already exists. You need a clock for anything to change. You need a before and an after. So when we say the universe began, we're assuming the existence of time to explain the origin of time. But wait, that doesn't make sense. Right. Because this isn't just a science problem, it's a logic problem. Try this. Imagine a candle burning down, its flame shrinks. Eventually, it's gone. That's easy. You can say, before it burned out, it was lit. Now imagine a candle appearing out of nowhere, already half burned, no wick, no match, no moment before it existed. It just is. That's the Big Bang. And it doesn't sit well, does it? Because you want to ask, what caused it? Where did it come from? Was there a time before time? But physics starts to break down if you push that hard, especially at what's called the Planck time, the first 10 to 43 seconds after the Big Bang. That's 0.000000001 seconds. At that point, our best equations just stop working, like a calculator spitting out error when you divide by 0. Now let me pause here, because I want you to grasp how crazy this is. We can rewind the universe back 13.8 billion years with astonishing precision. We can map the cosmic microwave background radiation, the leftover glow from the Big Bang, and measure it down to millionths of a degree. We know that the universe is expanding. We know galaxies are moving away from us. We even know that space itself is stretching faster than the speed of light, which is allowed, by the way, because it's not objects moving, it's space expanding. But when we try to go all the way back to the beginning, the true beginning, we hit a wall, a literal limit. We call it the cosmological horizon. It's like standing on the beach, watching the ocean fade into the sky. You know the Earth continues, but you can't see it, not because it doesn't exist, but because your tools aren't built for that. Now, here comes a reversal that might hurt your brain. You might think the Big Bang was the beginning of everything, but actually, it might be the end of our ability to explain anything. And here's the kicker. Some physicists now argue the Big Bang wasn't the beginning at all, not a singularity, not a creation moment, but just a transition, a bounce, a phase shift. Imagine water boiling into steam. It looks sudden, but the molecules were there all along, just changing state. Could the Big Bang be like that? Could it be a symptom, not a cause? Could our universe be just one cycle in a much larger pattern? We'll get into all of that in a minute. But for now, I want to leave you with this. When we say the universe began, we're really saying this is the oldest moment our physics can describe. It's not the beginning of everything, it's the beginning of our ignorance. Let's go deeper. Let me explain this the way I'd explain it to a bright 12-year-old. The Big Bang wasn't an explosion. There was no kaboom in space. There wasn't even space. Instead, space itself began stretching, like dough rising in an oven. Imagine a raisin bread dough. Each raisin is a galaxy. As the dough expands, the raisins move apart, not because they're moving, but because the dough is growing. That's our universe. And 13.8 billion years ago, it started inflating from something impossibly dense and hot. We call that starting point a singularity, where density and temperature go to infinity, and the known laws of physics melt. But here's a twist. That's not even part of the standard Big Bang theory. Wait, what? The actual Big Bang model doesn't say anything about the moment of creation. It picks up just after, starting from a universe already expanding and cooling. So what came before? To understand this, physicists introduced cosmic inflation, a theory proposed in the 1980s by Alan Guth at MIT. He said that just before the Big Bang as we know it, the universe underwent a period of exponential expansion. In less than 10 to the 36 seconds, the universe grew from smaller than a proton to the size of a grapefruit. Think about that. That's like a coin expanding to the size of the Milky Way galaxy in a blink. Why is this important? Because inflation smooths out the wrinkles. It explains why the universe looks almost identical in every direction, and why tiny fluctuations in the early universe became the seeds for galaxies. But it also opens the door to something even weirder. What if inflation never stopped? What if it's still happening somewhere? That leads us to our first brain-bending idea. In this model, the Big Bang wasn't the beginning. It was a local bubble in a sea of other bubbles. Each bubble is a universe. Each one pops into existence like foam on the surface of boiling water. This is where we meet the multiverse. Now, some of you might be thinking, hold on, isn't that science fiction? Let's pause. The multiverse isn't proven, but it's not just imagination either. It's the direct consequence of inflation theory plus quantum mechanics. And this brings us to our first thought experiment. Imagine an endless ocean. It's pitch dark. You can't see the edges because there aren't any. Now imagine tiny bubbles forming in the water. Each one floats to the surface and becomes a world. You live inside one of them. From your view, it feels like the only universe, but in reality, there could be countless more, forming, growing, collapsing, forever. That's the eternal inflation model. Each Big Bang spawns a different bubble, each one with different physics, particles, or even laws of math. Now here's where it gets interesting. Let's talk about time. If time began with the Big Bang, then asking what came before is like asking, what's north of the North Pole? It's a nonsense question, but maybe that's the wrong way to look at it. Roger Penrose, Nobel Prize winner and longtime collaborator with Stephen Hawking, proposed a radical idea called conformal cyclic cosmology. His claim? The universe didn't begin. It cycles. Over trillions of years, everything in the universe spreads out. Black holes evaporate, galaxies fade, entropy reaches its maximum, all clocks stop, and then a new universe begins. The end of one aeon becomes the beginning of the next. It's like a phoenix, reborn from its own ashes. No singularity, no true beginning, just an eternal loop of universes, each passing its baton to the next. Penrose even claims we might see the echoes of past universes in the cosmic background radiation, like faint fingerprints from a previous cycle. Of course, not everyone agrees. But it's not the only mind shifter. There's also the quantum gravity problem, the attempt to unite Einstein's general relativity with quantum mechanics. This is where physicist Carlo Rovelli comes in with loop quantum cosmology. In this model, the universe didn't begin, it bounced. Instead of a singularity, there was a contraction, what some call the Big Crunch, followed by a bounce back into expansion. A cosmic heartbeat, crunch, bounce, expand. Now here's something even stranger. There's a new theory being explored by physicists like Sean Carroll and Jennifer Chen. They propose that the universe came from fluctuations in a timeless quantum vacuum. That means there was no time, no space, just a quantum field. And then a fluctuation, like a bubble in boiling water, produced time itself. This isn't just speculation. The math works, and it's being tested with real models. But we have to be careful, because none of these theories can yet predict testable results. They're not wrong, but they're not confirmed either. And that leads us to: this is not poetry. This is physics. If the Big Bang wasn't the beginning, then everything we know about cause and effect collapses. Let me say that again. If time didn't exist before the Big Bang, then the question, what caused it, might be meaningless. It's like asking, what's the color of music? Doesn't compute. But if time did exist before, then we're looking at something even stranger. A pre-Big Bang universe we can never access. A meta-reality beyond time and space. A chain of universes with no first link. Think about it. If the Big Bang is just one moment in an eternal structure, then your existence is not an accident. It's a statistical inevitability. And the weirdest part? There could be an infinite number of you living slightly different versions of your life in slightly different universes, some where you turned left instead of right, some where you never watched this video. That's not science fiction. That's what follows from certain interpretations of quantum physics and cosmology. So let me ask, what does it mean to live in a universe that may not have begun, where time may be just a local illusion, where before the Big Bang might be a concept that collapses under its own weight? I don't know the full answer. But I know this. We are standing at the edge of knowledge, looking into a darkness we can describe, but not yet illuminate. And the deeper we go, the more we realize. The mystery isn't shrinking, it's expanding. Let's step back for a moment. We've talked about singularities, eternal inflation, cosmic cycles, and time being possibly an illusion. But what does any of that have to do with you? I mean, you woke up this morning. Maybe you had coffee. Maybe you're sitting on a couch or lying in bed right now, earbuds in, world outside silent. And here we are, talking about what came before time existed. Seems disconnected, right? But here's what I've come to realize. When I look at the stars, really look, I don't see cold, indifferent points of light. I see ancient signals sent across incomprehensible distances, whispering, you are part of this. And that's not poetic fluff. That's physics. The atoms in your body were forged in stars that lived and died billions of years ago. Hydrogen in your breath is older than Earth. You are literally made of Big Bang debris, a walking, thinking echo of the universe's birth cry. So when we ask, what came before the Big Bang, we're not asking a nerdy science question. We're asking, where do I come from? What am I part of? Does this all mean something? And that's deeply personal. Because here's a quiet truth we all carry, whether we say it aloud or not. We are terrified of endings. We don't like the idea of a before nothing or an after everything. We crave continuity, a before, a during, and an after. But maybe that craving is the illusion. Maybe you are not a separate observer of the universe. You are the universe, temporarily aware of itself. Carl Sagan once said, we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. But I'll go further. Maybe we're not just knowing the universe. Maybe we're the part of it that asks the question, because that question is written into its structure. You are not separate from the Big Bang. You are the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years later, with thoughts. Isn't that wild? And here's something even more intimate. When you love someone, really love them, you're not just reacting to chemicals in your brain. You're enacting a cosmic dance that began before time was even a thing. When you laugh, cry, create art, feel awe, that's the universe doing those things through you. Let me give you a moment of poetry. Before the first second ticked, before matter had form, before light could travel, there was the seed of you. Not as a person, not even as a thought, but as a possibility. A shimmering potential waiting in the quantum foam. You are the realization of that possibility. And you're not alone in wondering, what's beyond this? We all want answers. But sometimes what we need is the right frame. The future isn't out there waiting to be revealed. It's being shaped minute by how we choose to see. So maybe the real power of asking what was before the Big Bang isn't in finding an answer. It's in realizing how deeply the question connects us to the cosmos, to each other, to ourselves. So what does this mean for you? Let's take the most uncomfortable idea we've faced. That time may have no beginning. That there may be no ultimate answer. That the Big Bang doesn't mark creation, just a transition. Now reframe it. Maybe it's not terrifying. Maybe it's liberating. Because here's the most remarkable thing about the universe. It doesn't need a reason to be beautiful. And neither do you. Think about it. You don't need to deserve existence. You are existence. You are not a mistake, not a glitch in the simulation, not a meaningless accident of atoms. You are a ripple in the fabric of time, a short-lived bloom of thought in a 13.8 billion-year experiment in complexity. So here are 5 things you can take away from this. 1. You are ancient and new at once. The atoms in your body were born in dying stars. You are both the result of billions of years and the beginning of something never seen before. That's power. 2. The mystery isn't a flaw. It's a feature. We tend to think that not knowing is weakness, but actually, not knowing what came before is what drives discovery. It's the engine of science, the itch that leads to revolutions. Don't fear the question. Feed it. 3. You exist on a knife edge of impossibility. Had the Big Bang expanded even slightly slower, the universe would have collapsed. Slightly faster, and no galaxies would have formed. No planets, no life, no you. You live in a cosmic sweet spot. Don't waste it. 4. You are the universe becoming aware. That sounds poetic, but it's also literal. Neurons are matter. Thoughts are energy. You are made of the same laws you're trying to understand. So when you ask, what came before the Big Bang, that's not curiosity. That's the universe talking to itself. 5. You have the power to shape time. You can't rewind it. You can't see before it began. But you can create futures. Every decision, every conversation, every act of kindness or cruelty. It bends the timeline in subtle, irretrievable ways. You're not a passenger, you're a participant. So maybe the Big Bang isn't something that happened far away, long ago. Maybe it's still happening, right now, in you, every time you learn something new, every time you open your mind, every time you choose meaning over nihilism. The bang continues, and that's not a theory, that's a choice. So let's rewind. We began with a disturbing question. What came before the Big Bang? At first it felt simple, but as we peeled back each layer, we found paradoxes. We discovered that the Big Bang wasn't an explosion in space, it was the birth of space itself. We explored theories, inflation, multiverse, bouncing universes, cycles of time, quantum fluctuations in a timeless void. Each one chipped away at what we thought we knew. Each one expanded the boundary of what we could know. But through it all, one truth remained. The mystery is not separate from us. We're made of it. We are it. And now, after 35 minutes of diving into physics, philosophy, and everything in between, I want to leave you with a question. Not just any question. A question only you can answer. If you truly are a ripple in something timeless, what will you do with your moment? Will you search? Will you build? Will you love more deeply, knowing how fleeting and improbable this all is? Now I have a question for you, and it's personal. When in your life have you felt a moment of cosmic awe? That feeling that you were part of something vast, maybe infinite? Leave your story in the comments. Let's create a constellation of wonder together. Thank you for thinking about this with me.